Thank you. Thank you. Kyra and Kaleigh, do I have both of you on the line at this time?
Can you hear me?
Sure can.
All right. Let me just see if I can change this because I believe it's coming from my computer.
And those who are attending early, they get to hear
How
the behind the scenes look into the podcast, getting things started.
about All right, we're good. It's coming from my headset now.
Okay. Kaleigh, are you on the line?
See, on a normal day, I could just bang on the wall, but nobody's there.
Hello.
There we
There
are.
he is.
Perfect. I was mildly freaking out. I was like, where is my audio and why is it not working?
There you go. Well, we've already got.
I love technology.
Isn't it amazing?
I'm so great.
We're going to get going here in just a few minutes. We've got a few folks on the line already to join the podcast, so we're very thankful for you early birds. It's going to be a good discussion today, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
Most definitely.
And I think I've got my audio figured out. Last time around, I think I was picking up from my my camera's microphone, and it sounded all weird. Yeah. This time around, I think I'm on my headset. I think I should be a little bit clearer this time around.
It sounds like it. Sounds like you're on the headset. Yep.
I got my radio announcer voice on.
Oh.
You know, my wife does say I've got a voice for podcasts when I told her I was doing this. So
Oh.
not a voice. I'm sorry, a face for podcasts. That's the joke.
You almost had it.
Yeah, you know, I'm not a comedian, so I messed it up. Oh well.
It's okay.
Excellent. Well, we've got another 2 minutes before we're slated to start, so gonna go on mute here for just a minute, clear the throat, and we'll be ready to go here in just a second. I really need to type out my notes next time around. My handwriting is abysmal. Oh well. All right, it's 2 o'clock Eastern time, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. Welcome everybody to another scintillating episode of the Fundraisers podcast. Now, of course, we know this isn't a true podcast yet. We're still working out the details on that, but you know, really the whole purpose of us doing these episodes is really to share some of our experiences, to share things that we've seen, folks that we've worked with experience in the realm of fundraising, and we felt that there's a lot of things out there, but we wanted to really take an interesting look at fundraising trends that we're seeing across the board, because we do work with nonprofits from across the mission spectrum and across North America, actually internationally. And really just taking those experiences, taking what we've seen and sharing it with groups, and hopefully there's something there that you can take from it. Our whole goal here is for you to be able to take that golden nugget and be able to apply it in your own fundraising that you're doing in your community. And I think for all of us here, for Kaleigh, Kyra, and myself, Kevin, the thing that we love the most is really helping nonprofits raise a lot of money, seeing them raise a lot of money, because we know in the end that's going to affect change in the community. And that's something that's near and dear to all of our hearts. So that said, thought we'd get into this next subject. And what we're going to be covering is really the deadly sins of fundraising. And I had a lot of fun with this, reading through the articles that I found online, and just kind of seeing the things. And I found myself the whole time going, "Go ahead on, preach, keep on," because it just rang true to me. But
Yeah.
before we get into that, I thought maybe we'd just do a real quick introduction for those of you who did not join us the last time around. My name is Kevin. I'm with we're all with Over the Edge, but this is about more than just Over the Edge. This is really about you and your missions. But I come from about 20 years of fundraising experience in various different capacities. Started off as a local worker bee, stuffing envelopes and the whole 9 yards, and made my way up to be a regional director of a national organization. Just love what I do, love what I'm doing now with Over the Edge, and really happy to work with the people that I do on a daily basis. And here are two of them. Kaleigh and Kyra, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I will go next. So hey everybody, it's my name is Kaleigh Fugier. I am absolutely in love with the nonprofit world. Basically been through a couple different roles in my life that have brought me to, as Kevin mentioned, the role at Over the Edge. But I had the joy of talking to so many nonprofit leaders all across the country. They're not even our partners at that point. It's really, I get to learn a lot about kind of what they have on the go, what type of struggles they're having, what they're looking for, kind of their mindset. Definitely reading through some of the Deadly Sins articles that have been published. I was like, definitely see this theme with a few different nonprofits and, nonprofit leaders. So I'm excited to talk about some of the trends that I've noticed and kind of how they fit into each of these subject points that we'll be covering today. Kyra.
Yes, that's me. So, my name's Kyra McKeegan, and I am actually the one out of this trio that has the least amount of experience or knowledge of fundraising and charity and nonprofits and that type of thing. So, this is also a kind of a learning experience for me as well. So, yeah, I'm kind of on the listening end with all of our other listeners here today.
Yeah, and Kyra's actually going to be playing an important role throughout this. Not only is she probably going to have some questions as we go through some of this material, but she is going to be there to field questions as they come through. So if you feel like you have any questions, you can always just pop up in that little question window and pop them in there, and she will express those to us. So definitely feel free to jump in there and throw questions out, and we'll get those handled as quickly as we can. So all that said, let's get into the deadly sins.
Dun, dun, dun.
I know, dramatic. we definitely need a soundboard. We need a
soundboard.
and we need to be able to play music. Yeah, we need that. Anyway, so the first one is failing to prioritize fundraising. Now, I know for a lot of groups, they're like, what do you mean? Who fails to prioritize fundraising? Well, a lot of groups.
They
apparently.
exist.
Yeah,
Yep.
a lot of groups do. I mean, what you're going to find is in a lot of groups that think that it's a priority, what's really happening is that fundraising is just a part of their mission. Really, they're focused mostly on mission, which, don't get me wrong, is incredibly important. It's incredibly important, but fundraising needs to be the central part of what you're doing, because how do you accomplish your mission without the funds to make that happen? You know, so a lot of groups, they'll just be happy with like, well, we know for our budget we need to raise this amount of money, and this will allow us to do what we did last year and the year before and the year before that. What does that tell you though? If you're still doing the same thing year after year after year, that
Yeah.
means you haven't really accomplished your mission. You haven't really made the change. You've
Hmm.
accomplished, with that portion of the mission, but so how do you really get out there? Really, almost every nonprofit would love to work to where they're not needed anymore. But how do you do that unless you're raising more funds? And that fundraising is a central part of what you're trying to do. It needs to be the main part, because if you raise more money, you can affect more mission. You can affect the lives of more people. And that's really the whole point of this section. In fact, it says in the articles I was reading, it says that organizations that relegate fundraising to a second-class status will never, ever reach their full potential. And I think that's a real important thing to reflect on is how, is your organization, is fundraising a central part of your mission, and how are you implementing that? Um, so I thought
Yeah.
I'd throw that out there to Kaleigh and Kyra. I mean, have you seen this? Have you come across this? I know I have a lot, but
Oh
what is
man.
your take?
Yeah, of course. Like there's been groups that I'll be connecting with and, just kind of looking to learn a bit about what they have on the go for their development. And they'll be like, we're good. We have enough funds coming in, and I just don't think that should ever really come from a fundraiser. Is there like it's like there's no limit on your mission. So, I definitely think that there's got to be that push on the ask. Don't be afraid to ask. That's what you're there for. So that's kind of the way that um, you know a couple groups have come across to me in my connections over the years.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'm constantly confronted with are groups that are having issues with their board.
Mm,
Um,
Hmm.
this seems to be such a common theme. And when I say issues with the board, I mean, we'll say, well, one of the central things that we ask is, well, how engaged is your board and what is their participation history? Because we never recommend you taking on a new event, no matter what it is, unless your board is in a positive place that they're willing to play an active role in this. And we hear it all the time. Oh, that's not what our board does. They'll just, they just put up a little chunk of change, each year, whatever that amount is. And, they vote on important issues, but they're not really an active partner in the mission. It's too much for them. And I think that really kind of goes to that idea that the fundraising or the board doesn't want to ask. They don't want to ask their constituents or their spheres of influence to be a part of it. They're embarrassed to ask. And I part of me really thinks that if they are there, they need to be a central part of the mission, and part of that is the fundraising aspect. And making sure that you're bringing on board members that understand that coming in. Now, I know it can be difficult sometimes if you have grandfathered organizations that are always going to have someone to sit on the board, and that's just the way it is. I understand that, but if it's not going to be the board, then I definitely recommend that you're finding a fundraising committee from outside the board, or have some sort of group or that you can rely upon to really play a central role with aiding with your fundraising activities, no matter what they are. whether it be from a dinner gala to a run walk to rappelling down the side of a building. With all of those, they need to be a part of that. So anyway, so failing to prioritize fundraising and making sure that it's a central part of your everyday activity is one of the deadly sins. So the next one is thinking small. And this, oh boy, this is one that we come across in an awful lot. And really the basic tenet is the thinking, gosh, we need to shoot for 5% increase, and everything they do is just focused on that 5% increase. Well, what if you were to do something that was to go much higher than that? And I think there's a fear sometimes of trying to go large, but if you don't try, you'll never achieve that. If you think small, you may achieve that, but you're only going to get small.
Yeah.
And
you should
go
have
ahead.
like a anything is possible kind of mindset. Like, put a certain project in mind versus a number percent, like a small percentage like that. Or yeah, continue, Kevin.
Yeah, no worries.
Just like getting all heated and passionate about, I'm like, yeah,
That's
thinking
okay.
small.
I get it. Well, there's a great TED Talk that I absolutely love. It's by a gentleman by the name of Dan Pelotto. And I'm not sure if you've seen it, but I definitely encourage you all to look it up. The TED Talk is called The Way We Think About Charity is Dead Wrong. Again, it's by Dan Pelotto.
I started watching it. It's good.
Oh, it's tremendous. And one of the things he talks about is some basic tenets that he sees in the nonprofit world. And one of them I'm sure you're all familiar with is that the less you spend on fundraising, the more money for the cause. And he really goes into a long piece on this, but I'll break it down. He basically states, well, that's true. That's true. If your efforts are going to result in the same size piece of the pie. If all you're shooting for is the same size piece of the pie, then yeah, the less you spend on fundraising, the more money for the cause. But then he counters that with, in a logical world, investment in fundraising actually raises more funds and makes the pie bigger. So yeah, you might spend a little bit more on fundraising or in technology to aid you with that. So I'm kind of counting all of this. I'm not talking about just events. I mean the technology, the people that you need to be able to support that. All of that's part of the cost of fundraising. But if you do that and you do spend a little bit more in that area, it should result in you getting a larger piece of the pie. So in the end, are you really saving money for the cause if you spend less? Well, the way he talks about it, no. He says we have it backwards. He says fundraising is the one thing that has the potential to multiply money for the cause that we care about. And it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. Fundraising is going to be the one thing that's going to allow you to be able to feed more people, to be able to clothe more people, to provide services for the abused, to provide housing. It takes money. And how do you get money? So thinking small. Boy, I went off on a whole diatribe there. Anything else there from either of you two? I apologize.
No, Kev, it was great.
No.
I was like, keep going, keep going.
Yeah, you're on a roll right now.
I definitely like that piece too. I think that there's a part in there where he talks about kind of, the traditional sense of marketing in like a corporate world and how it's so frowned upon to have that type of awareness aspect to a nonprofit. But ultimately, raising awareness is going to, make people want to act, and people acting is raising funds and, kind of working towards that mission. So overall, thinking small is not going to get you anywhere. It's just going to keep you where you are. So yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the third sin is taking the easy way. Um, and I had this issue myself when I was, you guys know the story, but I'm gonna tell it anyway. You'll
I
just
would
have
hope you would.
you'll just have to listen.
No, the
Um,
people don't need to hear your story. No, I'm kidding.
no,
Go
of
on,
course
Kev.
they do. Of course they do. So taking the easy way is kind of the something that I've had happen to me way too many times, and I'm always coming up with different things, trying different things in all facets of life, whether it be in professional or at home, and and sometimes trying something new, trying something different can be difficult. It can be scary, and but if you're taking the easy way out, you're really, I find that you're really selling your mission short. Um, especially with fundraising. Um, one of the things that I do know is that sometimes we get into a rut. We know what we're doing. We've got this event that we do. We've got this campaign that we do. We know it forwards and backwards. We can do it without even thinking about it, and we just do it because it's that time of year, and we're just going to do it. And why mess with something that works? And that's true if it's working.
Mm,
If it's
I
working, and I challenge most groups on that idea: is it really working? You know,
yeah.
go ahead.
Honestly, it's like there's groups out there that say, well, we just host a lot of little events. That's just the way that we do it. That just seems like so much effort. Um, a bunch of little events might seem like the easy way out, but really it's just a lot more work. Um,
Mhm.
so, uh, it's really funny to talk to people about how they have that a desire for something different, but it's like that's too different. That sounds like too much
Mhm.
work. That's like they're trying to really believe in themselves, like, oh yeah, I definitely want to look at something different. And then once they kind of learn about what they need to do, um, it's like, oh, that's going to be adding way too much to our plate. And I mean, there's definitely moments where they are adding too much to their plate, and it wouldn't make any sense. But we also know that there's the flip side where it's just quite honestly and quite bluntly a little bit lazy
Well,
because
yeah.
like you need to have that drive to do something that you want to put your name on, that you're putting that effort into. I mean, your mission deserves that.
Well, absolutely, absolutely. And in my situation, I had a new event that I wanted to try, and I really felt passionate about it. I was like, look, we've been doing this dinner gala and golf outing for the last 25 years. Same thing every single year, and it did okay, but we were flat. We weren't seeing growth, and this kind of goes back to the whole idea of failing to prioritize fundraising. If you don't, if you're just going for flat, guess what? You're going to continue with flat. You're going to have flat mission growth. You're going to have a flat number of people that you're going to be able to support when we know that you want to do more. And that was where I was coming from. I wanted to do more. I wanted to help more people. I was working directly with these folks. I was having to turn people away because we could only support so many people. And at the home office, which was not working directly with the individuals in the community, I went to them with a new different kind of idea. And the exact response that I got back, and this is a quote because it'll stick with me for the rest of my life. It was, Kevin, why should we go after the new shiny penny when the old rusty one still spins? And my exact quote back to my CEO was, because we don't have as many of the old rusty ones as we used to. They're becoming harder to find, and we need more to affect more change. And they still didn't go for it. They still didn't go for it. They wanted to stick with the same old, same old. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that anytime you're looking at something different, it's scary. Yes,
There's
is
a
it going to
risk there.
there's a
Yeah.
risk. There's
Hmm.
always going to be a risk. And I know we're going to bring this up later on, in point 5. But the thing that I think this quote is perfect for right now. The quote is, when you prohibit failure, you kill innovation. And
Yeah.
I'm going to bring it up again later on because I think that's so important. But that's what we see. If you take the easy way, you're going to keep getting easy results, and you're not going to be taking that risk, and you're not going to see major growth in what you're trying to do. So I
Yeah.
think we've hit this point enough. I think we should move on to number 4, which
Yeah.
is strong arm fundraising. Now, this doesn't mean that you're going to do some sort of fundraising event where you're lifting weights. Strong. Terrible pun. Never mind. Remember, I'm
Yeah.
not a comedian. I'm not a
Put
comedian.
'em. I'll be our
I know.
soundboard.
There you
Wah,
go.
wah.
I know. But you know, building a network and really engaging with people is really important. But the whole thing behind strong arm fundraising is getting in there, getting as much money as you can from that individual, and getting out, and not really staying engaged with them, and
Not
and
making it
and
personal.
not making it personal.
Oh,
You're not being a good steward. You're not developing a relationship, and that's really part of fundraising, is relationship development. And and so what a lot of groups are doing is they are going for that quick pop. And while they think that they're forming a good relationship by talking them up right then and there, right before they give the donation, after they give the donation, there's nothing else. There's no communication. There's no letting them know that, by the way, because of your donation, we were able to do this. Or inviting them, or going and having one of your team go sit down with it. If it was a significant enough donation, go in and have a sit down with them. Go grab coffee. Really tell them about what's going on. Maybe there's other ways that they can be engaged in what you're doing.
yeah.
Maybe there's more than just the one-time pop that you can engage them on. Maybe you've got somebody there who's got a great sphere of influence, and you can convince them to share their experience with you with their sphere of influence. And so that's what we see a lot of groups fail at, is really making sure that they're staying connected, that they're developing the relationships, and they're giving them other opportunities.
Yeah.
And if you go into it with that mindset, that's all that's going to happen. You're just going to get that one-time pop.
And I think that it goes back to, and I know we are moving on, but it goes back to point 3. I mean, not making something personal and just doing the, kind of aggressive ask. It's taking the easy way because you need to put in effort to make it personal. Like, I remember being an intern, fresh out of college, just writing thank you notes and till my hand was ready to fall off. It was a lot of effort, a lot of time. I mean, that's why they got me to do it. But it takes that effort to have that personal touch and really thank people and let them know that, their efforts are making a difference, and that might make them want to come back or support you in another way. Or if you elaborate on what their donation is doing, that might drive them to do more. We built one house, let's build another one, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think it goes beyond just not cultivating them, or not really engaging with them after a donation. A lot of this point goes to what you do before you even get to the ask.
Mm,
What happens a lot is you get to the ask first, or that's your first thing, is the ask. And really, the best formula is prospect. So that means know who you're talking to, understand what their history has been, what's been their areas of interest, things of that nature. Then there's cultivate. So sitting down with them, talking to them, letting them know about your organization, what you're doing, inviting them to come out to see, I don't know, a house raising, or have them come out to see your mission. Have them come out to see a big your food pantry. Whatever your mission is, let them see, let them feel, let them get a sense of who you are and who you're trying to help, and then ask. And with that formula, in the grand scheme of things, they find that you get much more engaged, much more just individuals that are far more apt to stick with you and to be longtime donors and to really be a champion of your cause. So if you go that route, you're going to have a much better donor, and they're going to have a much better donor experience. So anyhow, that's point 4, strong arm fundraising. The final one is failing to innovate. And this is something I know we're all heavily engaged with. We're all about making sure that you are doing some innovation in fundraising, and some of this goes back to our conversation last time around. I think it was November, where we were talking about making sure that you're diversifying. Diversifying your events, diversifying your fundraising opportunities, because and we kind of did an analogy that it's very similar to investing. That if you invest all your money into one stock, if it goes down, your money's going to go down too. Whereas if you do invest in multiple stocks or do a mutual fund kind of situation, there's going to be areas that might go down, but you've got other areas that can bring you up. So making sure that you are diversified and that you are doing innovations can be very helpful to your success. And that's that's a major challenge, I think, for some groups. And I think this sin really falls back on the other ones, because maybe you have been doing strong arm fundraising, or maybe you've been taking the easy way, or maybe you've been thinking small, or you failed to prioritize fundraising. In the end, those can all result in you failing to innovate. And we're seeing the article gives plenty of examples of this, but I'm sure you all can look at it in your own organization, that there have been times where an event has maybe had a poor history. Has had a great history, and then suddenly some sort of event happens and it starts going downhill. Or perhaps you have had a major sponsor who's always been a part of your event. They've always bought a whole bunch of tables at your gala, or what have you. But then suddenly ownership changes, or that company goes down. What's going to happen? If you haven't been innovative, if you haven't been looking at different alternatives and diversifying your fundraising efforts, then guess what? That year you're going to have a big decrease. You're going to see a 30% decrease in your funds raised. I'm just using that as an example. So it is very, very important that we are innovating and that we are trying different things. And I think again, this goes back to some of the other themes earlier, but a lot of groups are afraid to try new things. They just are. I can't tell you how many times that we've chatted with an organization and we're talking with the development person, and they're like, yes, we need to try something different. They're all excited about trying something different. But then it goes back to the board, and it's like, yeah, no, we're afraid that we're going to lose money on the event. We're afraid that this is going to happen. We're afraid that that's going to happen. Well, if you're paralyzed by fear, guess what? Your fundraising is going to be paralyzed as well. And just to go back to that fear of failing. Some groups, they really feel that if they do end up losing money, they're just afraid that their reputation is going to get dragged through the mud. And again, when you prohibit failure, you kill innovation. You kill innovation, you can't grow. And if you can't grow, you can't solve the problems that you're there to solve. And that's the whole basic tenet of this final sin of fundraising. And I've gone on long enough. Kaleigh, what are your thoughts on that? I'm sure you've seen some of this before in talking with groups, and they come back with that fear, or they're just not innovating. And Kaleigh, I know you've had a couple that
Oh man.
you go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, yeah. I mean, I've had some very interesting kind of situations where I'm speaking with one individual in the organization and they're like, you know, no, there's no way that we can add anything. There's no way that we can do anything different. And maybe, a couple months later, they're coming to me looking for something different. Something fell through. That's happened a few times. I've also had groups that, you know, um, the flip side of that development person being all excited and then the board being the kind of the stick in the mud about, doing something different and kind of stepping outside of that comfort zone. I've had, the development person have almost no interest in doing it because they know that it's going to be more work for them. But then I speak with their leadership, someone above them, and they're all about it. They're excited. They're like, we need something different. So it's really interesting to have these connections with nonprofits and kind of see that spectrum of desire for something that's different, then kind of being shied away by the fear of something too different, and then also that the groups that are embracing something different maybe for the wrong, like there's just such a wide spectrum of
Yeah.
situations that nonprofit leaders face with. And I mean, I can see where they're going to have these moments where they feel like they're between a rock and a hard place because they want to be different, but everyone else is kind of on a different wavelength than they are. I find that those are the hardest conversations for me to have, is when I have someone that's really excited to do something exciting for their mission, and then it kind of gets kiboshed by those who maybe don't have that sparkling gleam in their eye of anything can happen, anything's possible, we got this kind of mentality. And I think it's kind of sad when I'm talking, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it goes beyond even just that. I think, I know that we've all chatted with multiple groups that come to us because they just lost a major sponsor and now they can't do this event over here anymore, or they're coming to us and they want to hurry up and get an event in for this year within the next
Yeah,
3 months to replace this event over there, which suddenly a
they're
building that they've been
scrambling.
using, yeah, a building that they've been hosting this event at, or this golf course, is now going down for renovations. And so if you haven't built in a buffer, and if all you're doing is working towards just your budget and you don't have a buffer there, you will run into this situation at some point. Maybe not this year, maybe not in your lifetime at that organization, but at some point the organization is going to run into that situation. And so trying to make sure that you can still make an impact in the community and making sure that you're not scrambling, being innovative, trying different things, can put you in a much better position and ultimately serve your community better. I cannot tell you how many times folks have come to us and had that same situation, and sometimes we just can't help because it's too soon,
Yeah,
and
they're
it's just
scrambling, and
you hate it.
it's unfortunate because we, the people that we want to help them, but you know sometimes it's not realistic.
Right. Yeah, and we don't want to. We definitely don't want to feed them false ideas at all.
No.
And I think, and sometimes when you're thinking about innovation and trying something new, going back to sort of that fear and thinking small, um, the thing we hear about is capacity a lot. We don't
Yeah.
have the capacity. Well, if you weren't thinking small, maybe you create capacity.
Hmm.
You consider additional staff. Yes, there's additional cost, but if that annual salary ends up helping you to bring in an additional $250,000, is that money well spent? Probably. I would say so. If you're looking at an annual salary and then you're looking at bringing in that much more money, having a greater impact in the community, raising more awareness, and that's part of growth. Again, if you're just going to maintain, well, you're just going to maintain. If you want to grow and you want to have a bigger impact, there are steps that you have to take to make that happen. Not every group's going to be able to do everything that we've spoken about here today. We know that, and sometimes it takes fundamental shift, a mindset shift within the organization and within the staff. But always working to better yourself, to better the team. Get out there, look for different alternatives. There's a lot of things out there. Learn from others. See what others are doing. Pick up from them. Give us a call. There's all kinds of different things that you can do, but we thought we'd put these things out to the group here. Hopefully you picked up a gold nugget that you might be able to utilize and be able to implement in your organization, and hopefully in the end it'll help you to achieve a greater mission. So let me ask, are there any questions from the group? I haven't heard anything from Kyra yet. I think I've heard her voice, so I know she's there.
I'm here. There's no questions so far in the little.
Well, let me ask you, Kyra, in hearing all of this, is there anything, since you're relatively new into this game, do you have any questions or do you have any real insights while maybe we give some folks an opportunity to type in? Hey, and if you all have any experiences in any of the things we talked about, feel free to share that too. It doesn't have to be a question. And, we can build on it a little bit more. And if you'd like to say something, and if you'd like to say something, we have a small enough group here, we could actually open up your microphone if you'd like, if you have anything that you'd like to say. So I'd like to give that opportunutony as well. So
our first podcast guest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, who wants to be the first? Kyra, any questions and anything that you're not real sure about from the conversation?
Not at this moment, no. It was a lot to take in, but it's very informative. So, I learned a lot today. Thank you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, you've just been exposed to the nonprofit world, really, Kyra. So,
yeah,
I'm sure that as you go along and learn more about it, it'll definitely, you'll be like, it's real, it's there, it's a thing.
Well, I'm not seeing any questions come through, so we will go ahead and close this down for right now. Know, folks, that we are going to go ahead and send off a recording of this. We did record this podcast, so we will send out a recording. Please feel free to take that and share it along to anyone that you feel would be receptive to the information. Hopefully this was helpful, and we will be letting you know about our upcoming podcast. And I think what we are going to do is we're going to review that video, that TED Talk that was done by Dan Pelota. Again, I'm gonna hype it one more time. It's called, if you just do a search on YouTube, you'll find it. It's The Way We Think About Charity is Dead Wrong. So there's a lot to unpack with that, and I think it would be good for, even if you do watch it, to come in and join us for that conversation. We'll be doing that next month. Kaleigh, Kyra, anything else before we sign off here?
Well, like to obviously invite everyone to join us at the end of February, like you just did. But hopefully we will be on a streaming service with the recording of this podcast episode. We'll also include a bit of a survey. So we'd love some feedback from any of you that have joined us today. Super thankful to have you. I'm really excited to have our next conversation and kind of develop together.
Excellent.
Yes, more so on my part is the development as I'm a newbie.
There you go. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Yay.
Bye all. Bye Kaleigh. Bye Kyra.
Bye Kevin. Bye Kyra.
Bye Kaleigh.
All right. Good night, John Boy.